Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Dirt Diamonds Sports Talk. As always, I'm Ryan here with my man Wally. Before we get started, guys, we're live on YouTube. So if you're watching a recording of this video and want to catch us live, go click that little subscribe button, hit the notification button on YouTube so that you can get notified when we hit the YouTube. As always, we're live on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and also on Riverside. So give us a follow there, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Tonight, Wally.
Don't forget Spotify and Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts.
Ryan got a note the other day from Apple Podcasts that we're up to number 190, which doesn't sound great, but you figure 190 of all the baseball podcasts. That's there's a bunch of them out there. So we appreciate everybody's support. And if you see it, you like it, share it with your friends. Hit that subscribe button because we enjoy doing it and we hope you enjoy listening.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. All right, well, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk a little bit about the Astros series in Baltimore. Might not have been as lopsided as it really seemed. And we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to kind of revisit maybe our Contender Pretender segment that we did. We're going to talk about a couple of, can these bad teams turn it around and get through some of that. Wally, there was a couple of themes in this series with Baltimore that I noticed that we kind of started chit-chatting about before we hit record. The Astros offense is not the main problem here with what the Astros have going on. The pitching staff is still the story. The Orioles really exposed the Astros leverage problem. They didn't dominate every inning of this series. They won with the big swings when they mattered. And Jordan is still carrying superstar math. He ended his 13-game hitting streak, but turned it right around the next game and had a 3-for-4 with his 12th homer of the season. Rolling through this series in Baltimore and thinking about those types of themes, we were chatting about specifically kind of the Astros looked like the team in today's second game of the doubleheader. I mean, dang it, we said this when they played the Yankees. We said this when they played the Guardians. How is it that 1 out of every 4 or 5 games the Astros can pull a complete game together and actually look like a team that can compete, but lose it and just look like total trash in most cases in between those games?
Oh, you see why they're 12 and 8, 12 and 18, 11 and 19, whatever they are.
12 and 20.
12 and 20.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 12. It is 12 and 20. That's why you see, let's talk about, this series in microcosm. The bullpen is, which has always been a strength of the Astros, had a 10 ERA for the series with a 189 whip. You're gonna give up runs, and you saw in game 1 in particular, it was a game that was close. Then the bullpen gave it up in the end. Kaiwei Tang pitched 3 innings. You expected him to go around 3 innings, and that's what he did. Then the bullpen came in and just got lit up.
Yeah.
On a brighter note, one of the things I saw in this series is not just because he had a really good series, but Bryce Matthews started showing some signs of figuring it out a little bit.
Yep.
He does one hit in particular. I think it was maybe in the second game, maybe in the second game or one of the, I forgot which game it was, but he got a pitch outside. He was fooled, but he didn't try to take a huge big swing. He just made contact, had a check swing double down the right field line. He did strike out. Let's see. He struck out 5 times this series, 5 out of 14, which is still too high. You're still talking a 37%, some odd like that strikeout rate, but it's not the 50%. And he's really taken to the outfield well, almost pulled in that grand slam uh, against Rutschman today. Had he
That
not
was a
been running
that was a
so
great
fast,
play. Yeah, he
yeah, he
hit that
not
wall
been
so
running so
hard.
fast. If he wasn't so fast, he wouldn't have gotten there to start off with. And he
That's
had been
true.
running there so
Absolutely.
fast, he wouldn't have when the fence stopped and the ball just got knocked out. But it's
Yeah.
really encouraging to see the things he's got. And of course, Jordan's just a beast.
Yep. I mean, Paredes is having had a great series as well. I mean, he had 3 hits in the first game of the doubleheader today, and yeah, I think that's just game one was not necessarily a blowout. It felt like it though. Um, it was kind of worse in a way. I would almost rather them just get blown out because it was a game where the Astros had enough chances to win and they just didn't cash in. I mean, it was the same type of thing. Enough traffic to win a game and just no payoffs with runners in scoring position.
Yeah, they
And
were.
that carried over into this morning's game. The same type of thing. Yeah,
Yeah, to your
basket
point.
looked good.
Yeah, to your point. 10 guys left on base. Chandler Rome put something up that the Astros struck out 10 times with guys in scoring position.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, woof.
Yeah.
2 for 14 in the first game, 3 for 5 in the second game, but they didn't matter. They didn't score too much.
Yep.
Um, 5 for 10 in the third game. So you're talking a 303 average for with runners in scoring positions. But like with a lot of the things the Astros have seen this year, the numbers, some of the offensive numbers can cover up a bit what the real story is. Game two, you didn't have enough chance. You're 3 for 9 with guys in scoring position, and you got whacked. So who cares?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, game two was that was on pitching. I mean, you guys didn't hit. Obviously, it seemed like maybe there was a little bit of give up there, but um, a lot of people on X Twitter were pretty upset about Joe pulling Lambert and throwing Okert in there. Obviously, Okert gave up the grand slam. It went straight downhill from there. Um,
Let me give you some numbers and tell me if you were upset. You should
okay.
be upset. 4 1/3, 3 walks. 91 pitches. You know, he's still early in the season. Lambert, I don't know how fully stretched out he was.
Hmm.
I had no problem with it. I'd like to have seen Lambert go 5, but Joe's trying to protect a guy that I think he sees as part of the solution rather than the problem.
I agree.
You
And
know,
not
he
just not just that, Okert has been,
good,
Okert's been great. Outside of him, I mean, him and Tang have been, your only two bright spots in the bullpen, really. And
consistently.
yeah, and when you're in that situation, by that 90th, 91st pitch, Lambert had already lost about 3.7. I think I saw 3.7 miles per hour in average velocity. So you could tell things were slowing down for Lambert. Uh, Gunnar Henderson in both of his at bats against Lambert had very high exit velocity, hard hit balls, just they were fly ball, which, Lambert's pretty much a fly ball pitcher. And so I didn't have a problem with Joe pulling Lambert before Henderson. You expect Ogre to go out there and do the work. And, of course, he comes in and takes a dirty inning with a man on second. But that's the job of the bullpen, man. And Oker's proved that
Yeah.
he can pretty much do that. I do think that there was one or two other games where Oker came in a dirty inning and did not perform well. He seems to perform well better in a clean inning, but you got to go out and do the job. And
Yeah.
Oker just had one of he had a day. So
Yeah. Let me throw another
it just
number
is,
at you. Lambert only threw 57% strikes. When you were
yeah,
looking at it, he was not wild. And he wasn't missing by much, but he was missing.
yep, yep,
And yeah, at that point you feel like you've got a chance to still win the game.
yep,
And so you give yourself your best chance with your most dependable reliever.
yep,
Didn't work
yep.
out. Sometimes
It
sometimes they don't.
it didn't. I mean, at the same time, you've gone through 21 pitchers already in this season. I mean, you're working on 21 pitchers, 11 of which were starters, and it's just that I've got here a 13.4% walk rate. That is not good, not good.
Yeah, I
That's the
haven't
entire
looked at it.
season in a paragraph right there.
Yeah, they had 17 walks this series. So do
Hmm.
the math. That's a little under six per game. We
Yep,
talked about it a couple of shows ago about what walks are like for pitch counts. Your average your average hit occurs in four or less pitches. Your walk is going to be about six pitches. And
yep.
then you don't even have a chance to get the guy out when he swings. So
Well, and that's the
they've been
thing.
a
I think
problem all
we
season.
we talk a lot about ERA. We're throwing ERA out there a lot, and it's not so much the problem is the ERA, the number. It's the way that they're getting to that ERA, the number of
Right.
walks, the short starts, the long and bad counts, and just letting innings snowball into oblivion. Is really what's killing these guys. So yeah, I didn't have a problem again with Lambert being pulled and Oker going in. Just kind of one of those games, really. And then the afternoon of the doubleheader, uh, we bunch of us talking about how we thought Lance was just washed and toast, and then he comes out and throws 6 innings today, and only allowing 3 runs on 2 hits. He got himself 9 strikeouts. Now the 4 walks number, I'd like to see that obviously come down, but that's not 7. So it's not perfect because the walks are still there, but compared to what we've seen recently from both this staff as a whole and McCullers last inning, um, this was a pretty stabilizing outcome, and he had some run support early, obviously because of that first inning rackus that the Astros pulled off. They deserved this win. It sways the numbers a little bit when you look at the 20-7 and 20-17 runs scored in this series, makes it look a lot closer. But this was kind of one of those blueprint games, man. If you can continue to take this game and model it, you've got a 6 inning start, walks are down, the offense is kicking. Yeah, this was kind of the first game since that last game against the Yankees where we felt like the guys weren't digging out themselves from a mess from the get go.
Yeah, this is a prototypical Lance McCullers start. Like you said, you gave the other numbers. 1.00 whip with 57.6% strikes. That's just what he does.
Yeah, yeah. And
He gets in trouble with
if we
he
could
he
get
did
that
only have
consistently, that would be
16.
great.
Yeah, you'd only have 16 and a half pitches per inning, which is, that's you'd like it 15 or below, but 16 you're not going to get exercised about.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I mean, there's one thing we don't need to spend this season, and that's Jordan's production. Game 3 there, I think we mentioned it earlier, 3 for 4, 12th homer of the season. Um, I guess that's the funny thing about Jordan this season, man. He's healthy, and when a
You just don't
little
want to waste him.
streak, no, and that's the thing, man. It's just the next game looks like an MVP line every day for this guy. He's the one thing that doesn't require any spin put to it. He's just
Yeah,
going out there and doing the work every day.
Yeah, just tell him to be careful when he crosses home plate and don't turn his ankle like he did last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's
No,
not
no,
do
no,
that.
no. Not good.
Yep. All right. So yeah, Houston's 12 and 20. They've scored 168 runs and allowed 198. So that's a negative 26 run differential. Their expected record at this point was 14 and 18. So they've underperformed a little. I don't know, not enough to call it
Hey,
bad luck.
if you're
I
not
don't think
making the
it's just
playoffs,
is
who
what it is.
cares?
Yeah. Well, true.
Man,
Yep.
if you're the Pythagorean could say 14, 18. We can say the record's 12 and 20.
Yep.
That's who cares? They've not been
Yep.
good by any stretch. I mean, the offense has been great, but they haven't too many times they just haven't played winning baseball. The one thing that I am seeing is that the starting pitching has not been great, but it's starting to line itself out.
Yep.
And we'll talk
Yep.
a little more about the bullpen later on in the show
Yep.
and what it means. But it just y- y- they've not been dependable, and let's just
Yep.
see if they can get something you can depend on.
Well, and the road has been brutal.
Yeah,
I mean, they're 4 and 12 on the road now after this series, and I think that when you start identifying yourself as a team that's not good on the road, you start to have problems. So good teams
yeah.
survive road trips. This Astros team has always been good on the road. This is not a good sign because once you flip that script and you start telling yourself we're not as good a road team as we used to be, then you start carrying that mental crap, and
Well,
that has a way of finding itself onto the field.
but what they're going into now? They're going to the Red Sox, and the Red Sox are an absolute unmitigated mess. Let's see what Burrows can do. Let's see what Arrighetti can do. TBD on Sunday. The Red Sox are TBD tomorrow night, and Connor Early goes against Arrighetti on Saturday. And you've got to, we're we're going to find out if Arrighetti can back up start after start after start, which it's time for him to be able to do that. Ranger Suarez goes on Sunday, and the Astros beat up Suarez pretty good in the at home at Dyken Park.
Hmm.
Be nice to see Burrows uh, do well. He has that changeup. The guys like to hit that changeup the other way. They can hit it to the big part of right-handers, the big part of Fenway Park. And let's just see how they. You ever been to Fenway?
I have, yes, a couple of times actually.
Oh, cool. How is it?
Yep, it's just like you would think it is. It's pretty amazing. It's a really cool atmosphere. The area around the ballpark is really awesome as well. If you're into oysters, man, I'm not going to remember the name of the oyster bar.
I'm sure. In
But
Boston,
there,
Oyster Bar, I'm
it's
sure there's more than
well,
one.
there's really one that's kind of iconic because it's really long across the frontage across the street, and the bar basically looks out the window straight at Fenway,
Oh,
um,
cool.
and
And
so it's pretty iconic.
the only real old one I ever been to was old Yankee Stadium. Went there the year before they tore it down, moved it to new Yankee Stadium, and the views were great out for the field, but you could tell back in the concourses and the bathrooms it was time for a new stadium.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
Let's see. I'm going to
one
try
thing
to look
one
it up
thing
real
we
quick,
talked
but
about is a couple of shows is you know who's pretenders and contenders.
yep.
Of the ones that we had that were terrible. We wanted to go through a few of these guys and see who even has a chance. Um, let's go. I'm going to go Red Sox, Royals,
Yep.
Mets, Phillies, and Astros. Let's just go one at a time, real quick, and tell me what you think. 30 seconds. Go Red Sox.
All right. So the Red Sox are 12 and 19 with a negative 16 run differential. They're 8 games behind in their division, 3.5 games back in the wild card. Mathematically, I think the Red Sox have the best chance out of this list that we're going over. But I don't know that this little reset button that they did with Alex Cora is really the thing that's going to do the trick. If the roster doesn't respond, this becomes less about leadership, more about whether this team was overrated from the get go. I've got a few injuries. I, I'm iffy on these guys. I think they have the best chance mathematically. I just don't know that they've got the oomph to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing, everything I've read about the Red Sox is that uh, Craig Breslow got out in front of this thing because Cora had cured Heim Bloom before, and he was going to get out in front of that before Cora did the same thing to Breslow. Good for Breslow for doing that, because you can't have guys on the field thinking that they're that much bigger than the team. There has to be some sort of chain of command. Red Sox have to play 595 ball to get to 90 wins. Now, everything with the Red Sox is a mess right now. They're really not hitting. Pitching they thought was going to be great, but Garrett Crochet's out with a shoulder impingement. Sonny Gray is out with a hammy. Um, I don't see it. I just think there's just too many things going against them to be able to make it. Plus the fact they're in a tough division. The Blue Jays are not playing super great right now, but you can see them coming, and I think they're just going to push the Red Sox down to the bottom of the division.
Yep.
Second,
Okay.
Royals.
The Royals at 12 and 19. Where'd my notes go?
All right, let me run into them. I'm gonna run my notes and then you come. They're only
Here
three
you
and a
go.
half back. They're only three
Yep.
and a half back with almost everybody having a terrible start. Okay.
Yep.
Anything that you have Pasquantino hitting 195. You got, Salvador Perez on the interstate. Isaac Collins, they traded for him. He's on the interstate. Noah Cameron has not lived up to what he did as a rookie. And Cole Reagans, who's still not come back from his rotator cuff from 2025. I had one of those, but certainly not on a pitcher level, but it just takes time for all that scar tissue to break loose. They
Yeah.
also have to go play 595 ball to get to 90 wins. So, but they're only three and a half back in a division that's not great. So it's doable.
Yep. I think so too. Yeah. Cleveland and Detroit are both 500, 16 and 16. So this division is very reachable. There's nobody deciding to run away from this. Um, the Orioles are 3 and 12 on the road. We just talked about the Astros paltry road record. Here's the thing that has me putting a big question mark about the Royals being able to turn it around is they are only 2 and 10 against teams that are over 500.
Yeah.
So that's a tough combination. Having a bad road record, not being able to win against teams that are over 500. They're struggling when the schedule asks real questions and puts them up against, teams that they should have been competing against. Um, I don't know. I don't think they're good enough. But the AL Central is just it's right now. It's a pretty forgiving division. Cleveland and Detroit have said they're not going to run away with it yet. So
Yeah.
I think
But
the Royals have a chance.
yeah, with the Royals, that their lineup has been so bad. If they just get their lineup to hit what the back of their baseball card says, they'll make a run. Now, is it good enough? I don't know, but they have a chance.
Yep.
Mets,
Yep.
another absolute mess.
Oh, geez. I mean, I think if I have to give the worst turnaround case to a team on this list, it's by far the Mets. The only reason not to bury these guys is because talent. I mean, we've talked about it. They spent big money. They got stars. If stars can get healthy and hot, maybe there's still a theoretical path for them. But 10 and
Is it
21,
right
11
up?
and a half.
Is it right up there with the repeating value of pi? Finding the repeating
It
value
might
of pi.
it might be. It just might be. Yeah. 10
Let
and
me let me throw you.
21, 11 and a half games back in the East, 8.5 or 8 games out of the wild card spot. Here's the thing for me, and this comes up with the Phillies, is that run differential again. They've only scored 106 runs. They've allowed 140 runs. They own a negative 35 run differential. Um, the injury picture is ugly too. I mean, this team
Yeah.
is horrible. It's
Let me give
it's
you.
so
Let
bad.
me give you a number. The the Mets have Juan Soto and nobody else who's had 50 at bats or more that's hitting higher than 237.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Woof.
Eesh.
And out Francisco Alvarez leads the team with 4 home runs. They just
Yeah.
seem listless. We've talked about it before. I'm not sure that Carlos Mendoza's the problem, but they might have to can him just to get rid of it. Also, when you look at the pitching of the guys that are supposed to be some of their main pitchers, Nolan McLean and Clay Holmes are good. Peralta's okay, but you've got David Peterson, Sean Manaea have ERAs of 6 and above. Kodai
Yep.
Senga is got an ERA of 9.
Yeah.
You know, they it you just it's just an absolute disaster.
Yeah. 3-16 over their previous 19 games.
Yeah,
They're hitting a 625 OPS during that 19 game stretch.
yeah. Well, I think they're like I say, woof.
Yeah. Yep. Phillies.
Uh, Phillies.
Yep. 11-20 record, 9.5 games back in the NL East, 6 games back of the wild card. The scariest thing about the Phillies for me is the run differential. They're the most lopsided in the group. Negative 45. They've scored 118 runs and allowed 163. Letting go of Rob Thompson, the first game response under Don Mattingly, woohoo, 7-0 win over the Giants. Jesus Luzardo threw a good 7 inning shutout. This team has enough veteran talent that I think they can do something, but I don't know that they can claw their way all the way back.
Yeah, they've got to play 607 ball to get
Yeah.
into to get to 90 wins. And the reason I'm throwing 90 wins is that over the last several years, since they've redone the playoffs, it's a virtual certainty. If you get to 90 wins, you will make the playoffs. Phillies, back on what you're saying, the team. What do you want to guess the team OPS is without looking?
That's one that I didn't pull. So if I had
663.
to, okay, I was going to say like 680. So yeah,
663. That's terrible.
yeah,
Schwarber's got 10 home runs, but he's hitting 196. Alec Boehm, he's got a slash line of 157, 216, 444. They tried to trade him over the last year or so and no, couldn't find any takers. And you really feel for Boehm right now because he's got some family issues with he's suing his parents because he says they stole money from him and who knows what's right, but that's got to distract him some. Bryson Stott has get this, 214, 282, 552. Real Muto's out. Garrett Stubbs, remember him, is back up on the big team. And he's getting a lot of the catching now because Marshawn, the catcher they thought was better's got a slash line of 085, 149, and 289. Yuck.
mm, mm,
That's just terrible.
mm, mm.
Luzardo and Nola have been a disaster. Although Luzardo had that nice start, yesterday or day before. Zach Wheeler's back and see what he's got. And Christopher Sanchez has been pretty good. You do think Mattingly can calm that situation down some, but I just don't know. I mean, you've got you've got the Phillies buried in last place. The Braves are 22-10. They're already 11 and a half back. So they got a ways to go. And excuse me, 9.5 back. That was the Mets being 11 and a half.
Hmm.
9.5 back. Man, that's a that's a tall hill to climb.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Well, our boys, hometown Houston Astros. I think the Astros have the best division based comeback case. They are only 5.5 games back in this AL West. The Athletics are 17-14 with a -5 run differential. And even when you're watching those games, they're not running away with games. So Seattle's only 500. The The Rangers are only 500. The Angels are tied with Houston. This is probably the best argument for the division has refused to run away from them. The offense is strong, batting a 117 OPS plus through these 30 games, 32 games, whatever it is. And here's a stat that I pulled, Wally, that I think it shows to a few of the things that we talked about with maybe the pitching is starting to figure some things out.
The starters.
The pitching stat, well, yeah, the pitching staff's xERA is now a 4.61. So this is showing or suggesting that they've pitched badly, but maybe not quite as badly as that true ERA actually shows, and that there's been a little bit of bad luck mixed in there. So um, we can't talk enough about the pitching. I think the Astros are not like a cold bat away from being fixed. This team needs healthy starters, needs relievers throwing strikes, and the offense to keep doing what it's doing, and hopefully the pitching can catch up.
Yeah, let me start and take it from another angle. They've got to go 78 and 52, which is right at exactly 600 ball to make it.
Yep.
They did that a couple of years ago. They had to play 600 ball, and they did when they fell behind. But let's put this in perspective. This has happened playing that kind of ball, making the playoffs after the start the Astros have had has happened once since 1914, and the Astros did it. Okay,
Yep.
so granted, you don't have
Almost did it last year too.
yeah. Now it's different now because you've got more playoff teams. Not like it was when the Boston Braves did it in 1914, because you only had two teams. You win the league or you go home. The
Right.
Astros are showing you 101 how important a dependable closer is. When you look at where the Astros are in the relief corps, yeah, if Hader's there, you bump Abreu to the setup guy, and then you can move Okra to the sixth inning guy, and everybody has a comfortable role. I'm convinced that one of the things that's hurt the Astros so much is that Abreu, and we saw it last year, he just for some reason doesn't have it to be a closer. He just doesn't, and so he's having to close. Well, that means another guy who's a seventh inning guy has to be an eighth inning guy. And it goes on and on and on. And it's just, the bullpen is, I hate to say it, it's a mess.
Yep.
You got a 663 with a 171 whip is what their numbers look like. Walks are still a major issue. The Angels are trying to catch the Astros, but the Astros still have issued 160 walks. The Angels have issued 153. Hey, by the way, did you know that if the Astros win and the Angels lose, we're out of the cellar? Yay!
Oh my
The big
gosh.
question is with the Astros is, can the offense stay as hot as it's staying while the pitching figures it out? I am still convinced that the Mariners are going to win the West.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The A's will be competitive. The Angels are the Angels.
Yeah.
They're gonna be what they're gonna be. And the Rangers, I think, are gonna be competitive. I think, question is, can the Astros I think if the Astros can get out of the cellar and past the Angels, and start making ground up, you can make a game or two up every couple of weeks, you can do that. We'll talk about this more as the season goes on. Over time, making up more than a game a week is a really, really tall order. It's a big deal. And we'll
Except
get
for
into
the
some of
period,
the
except for the period of May 11th through the 17th, when they
right.
have a huge opportunity playing both Seattle and the Rangers back to back
Right. But
at
and
home.
things can
But
change
yes.
like you talk about, things can change in a week period. But then
Oh yeah.
again, when you get down to the last 2, 3 weeks of the season, Someone gets hot, someone gets cold. But when you spread it out the entirety of the season, it's been proven over and over, making up more than a game a week. Here's the math: you play 13. Let's say you play 13 games in 14 days of an average number. If somebody is, if you're 10 games behind somebody, okay, and you think you're going to win, and you come up in the middle of, let's say, the middle of July, or you're talking notionally 10 weeks left. If that team in first place is winning, going 8-5, okay, that means you've got to go 10-3
10-3.
over and
Yep.
over on a rolling basis.
Yep.
That's 714 baseball, if I'm correct. No, it's 700 baseball anyway.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Yep.
So it's incumbent on the Astros to make up ground as quickly as they can, so they can at least give themselves a shot. Or any one of these teams have got to start now.
Yep.
Most of these teams, when you get to, say, the end of May, middle of June, you need to be within 5-6 games.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Red Sox, then the Dodgers at home. That'll be fun. The Reds, and then Mariners, Rangers, Twins, Cubs, Rangers again for a 4-game series, and then finishing off the month of May with the Brewers. To me, this is a 50-50 month schedule. Half of this is difficult, half of this should be winning baseball. You got a lot of division play here in
Yep.
the month of May, and so I think we've kind of said it. By the end of May, we'll know exactly
That's
where this team stands for the rest of the
that's
season, because
the way it always.
coming out of May, there's not going to be a whole lot of, you're not going to be able to make up a ton of space.
Yeah. Well,
After
it's always tell me what it's like at Memorial Day.
Yep. Yep.
You get to Memorial Day, you played 60 games, you got a third of the season. You know what you have.
Absolutely. 100%. All right, man. Well, let's see what the Astros are going to have going up against the Boston Red Sox next. This was a good show, man. I had fun. I like the little
I did
pretender
too.
contender
I enjoyed
stuff.
it too. We
Good.
get on that.
That was good. All right, guys, give us a subscribe and a like on your favorite podcast app. Catch us next time. We'll probably see you over the weekend. For Wally, I'm Ryan. Go Stros.
Go Stros. And I didn't tell everybody.